Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk to you about market stalls and selling things at market stalls and festivals. This is something I did for about 10 years. I always did very well. Me and my sister always used to joke the night before we did a stall that we would come home with piles of cash, and we always did. There was always a lovely pile of cash at the end of every market that we did. So I wanted to give you guys some tips and tricks to get you going with selling things at markets. So before I get into it, I just want to say that I didn't only sell crochet. I also do macrame. My sister's an artist and a creative and made beautiful things. So we had a variety of things on our stall, but this will be useful for those of you who only want to sell crochet as well, because it's selling things at craft markets that's the key here. So to start with, I need you to think about your customer. When someone goes to a craft market or a festival or a small event where they know they're going to find creative things that have been made to purchase, they are bringing with them their pocket money. They want to spend a little bit of money, treat themselves to something lovely, and they're not bringing their life savings with them. So one of the key things that I always made sure with my stall is that I had products and items that were pocket money prices. Anything over the £15–20 mark was always a little steep for these markets. So the thing about it is, you'd be amazed how quickly selling, say, 30 things at £5 adds up compared to trying to sell that one £100 blanket. It is so much easier to spend a small amount of money on a little treat for yourself than it is to make an investment. So make sure that you have lots of little pocket money treats. That is to say, don't leave out the more expensive, grand items, because they make beautiful display items. They show off your skills, they show off your ability to create something really extravagant, and that will probably draw people's attention to you. But once they've made it to you and they like you and they want to spend a little bit of money on your stall, they're more likely to choose something little that is just pocket money. And don't be afraid to have little cheap things, because they will add up and people are it's just easier to sell them. That's something that I found a lot. I was receiving £5, receiving £10, and none of the big expensive items ever sold, but people would talk about them. They're an excellent talking point and a reason to get conversation going. And once you have that conversation going, they begin to like you. They begin to think, I wouldn't mind spending a little bit of money here with this person. And then there's no pressure for them to spend £100 plus. They can actually spend £5 with you, and I'm never going to turn down £5. Certainly adds up quick, I promise. It's a good tactic. Other things to think about: where the market stall is. There are little craft shows and market stalls all over, particularly in the UK. You get a lot in the summer, and you have to be careful which ones you do. Some are just not as good as others. We have, where I live currently, we have a local village hall that does a craft fair, and you get the little diddery old ladies who pop in for a cup of tea and a little look around, and they're not going to buy anything. Whereas where I used to live on the other side of Bristol, if you know Bristol, it could be quite bohemian and artistic and quite a funky place to live. So where I used to live on the other side of Bristol, having a market stall at a place called St Werburgh's Festival, for example, was amazing. And all of the people that were there were my clientele. They liked my jewellery, they liked my crochet, they liked my sewing, they liked my tie-dye, and my stuff just sold really well to them, and it just doesn't sell at all to the little old biddies who just want to come in for a cup of tea and a biscuit. a bit of a chit chat. So really think about where you're doing your market stalls. What products do you have? What does it suit? If you're doing amigurumi, are there going to be lots of children around? Are you going to be doing, say, a Comic-Con style event? So make sure that your products suit the clientele. Are there characters that they all know and love? That sort of thing. Because, you know, you can't sell to people who don't know and want your things. I know it seems obvious, but sometimes you see a market stall advertised and you think, oh, I'll sign up to that. But you have to really think about who's going to be going. Somewhere in a beautiful National Trust setting, you're going to want to be selling nature things and things that suit a slightly upper class clientele. Or a little village hall, you've got to think, maybe is this something that the local grannies would prefer? Or, you know, a fun children's day out festival. You know, you're going to be selling lucky dips and cheapy things, pocket money stuff, and funky, colourful things that children will like. So you really have to think about what market is appropriate for you. Displaying your items is also really, really crucial to attract attention. I've been quite lucky that I've done a lot of outside events, so I've had a gazebo. Having a roof over your stall means that you can hang things, you can display things, you can put fairy lights. I always had a beautiful branch from a tree that I put hooks in that I would hang all my jewellery off and then hang it right above the desk in front of me. So as people walked up, they had to look at this curtain of necklaces that I had made that was right in front of their face. And I did sell a lot of those. Because they're there, they're easy to touch, they're easy to see. Layers. If you have just a table display, make sure you have layers. There are stands, there are little stepping shelves. So you create a visual, people want to look along there and then they want to look up and there's something hanging here. It really draws attention. If it is all lying flat on a table, people will glance and it doesn't suck them in, it doesn't draw them in. A beautiful display can make a huge difference. There is a few things with it though. I have discovered I love to set things up like a scene. So I would use, on my table, I would open an old book and lay my necklaces on the old book. So it gave them a little backdrop. They're not just lying straight flat on the table, but you have to be careful not to go too far with that. You don't want too much distraction from your products. So you need to find the perfect medium between creating a setting, a beautiful display, a window display, without it being distracting from your actual products. That's something I always really enjoyed doing, finding new ways to display things. But even something simple like having a box underneath your tablecloth, just lifting up a piece of the table to display that one item, and then you have other items underneath it and around it. It really does attract attention a lot more than something on a flat surface. So do think about that. And things like the tablecloth, always have a tablecloth. I have found something that's really useful is if you have your table, I will link below the table that I use and any useful things that I use for my market stalls. So do check out the links below. But with my table, a single fitted bed sheet fits perfectly over it. You can tuck it under the legs, so if there's any wind or breeze, it won't blow away. And it just fits perfectly nice and taut, so it's not flapping or crumpling up. And that way, once you've got it tucked under the front, you have the hole underneath to store all your boxes and your bags and things that you don't want to be seen. So that's a really handy tip. Check out fitted sheets over tables. It looks really good and you can get all kinds of colours. But do make sure you get a complementary colour for your things. You don't want anything too garish or too clashing. I'm quite simple. I like it to look linen and clean and natural, but often with jewellery or things like that, black is an excellent background. So have a think about what colour would suit your... I'm pulling on my microphone. I hope that's not making a silly noise. Yeah, think about what would suit your products. Clear pricing. So this is something that is personal to me, as well as something I've noticed from my customers, is pricing. When I go over to a stall and I see several things that I like, say I have seen 3 things that I like. First, how much is this one? Put it down. How much is this one? Put it down. And how much is this one? Already I'm feeling a little put out. I don't really want to keep asking. And then there's also the feeling that, you know, they may say a lot more than I'm prepared to pay. So I don't want to come across rude and put it down and walk away. Oh, I don't like your prices. You know, there's that feeling of like you're creating a little barrier between you and your customers where there's a slight awkwardness. Whereas if your pricing is really, really clear and everything is individually priced, people can judge for themselves whether it's something they want to pay. And it just takes the pressure off. You know, you can scan a stall and think, oh, I can afford some of those. I might look a bit further. Or you may scan a stall and think, that's a bit out of my budget. And you don't have to then be rude to the person behind the counter and say, it's a bit out of my budget, because you can tell without having to say anything. And I think that makes a big difference for people. I think make it as easy as possible for people to decide for themselves if they want to buy from you. And this also goes for talking to people as they come up to your stall. I would always recommend having something to do while if it's something to do with your craft, even better. If you're selling crochet things, sit and crochet. People enjoy to see that you're making the items. They also enjoy to see the fact that it is not something that has been purchased from Temu or whatever. You're proving to them that you can make it. And it means you're not staring at everyone who walks up to your stall. It is so intimidating to walk up to a stall and someone's like, hello, you know, a little, you're busy, hello, and carry on. You've given them an in. They know you're friendly. They know they can talk to you if they need, but you're not pressuring them. One of my biggest pet hates is when you go up to a stall and you pick up an item or you're looking at something and they immediately give you the story of it. Oh, this one is made of this material and we discovered that this works for this, and you're instantly, I can feel myself creeping away, and it's like, I don't want the full story. I just wanted to look at it. Don't do that to people. There will be tells if people want to know more. So just be friendly, be open. If they start a conversation, brilliant, it's an opening, you can get in there and start giving detail, but don't jump down their throat with details. It is intimidating and off-putting. Even if they actually want the item, I think it can feel very salesy and pushy. So try not to do that. And if you're busy doing something else, but you're open and friendly, a bit of a smile, a bit of eye contact, but then you leave them to it, they know they can talk to you, they know you're friendly, but they're not being pushed and they're not being forced. What's next? Something that is always worked and that you cannot do in an ordinary shop or online is deals. So when someone is debating, they've picked 2 items, they love them both, and they're trying to decide, and let's just say they're £10 each, and you say, I'll do them both for 18. More often than not, they go for that. There's that little deal, that little feeling that they've got themselves a bargain, and it's exciting, it's a little thrill for them, and you're still getting a decent price, but you're selling more. It's something that you can't do online, you can't do it in shops, and it feels very personable and like you are actually having a moment with that customer that will more likely than not encourage them to purchase those items. One of my absolute best sellers was my earrings, for example. So I make earrings, I made these, and I would sell them at £3 a pair. But I always had the deal, £3 or 2 for a fiver, and I can tell you, I always sold 2 pairs, always, because there must be a psychology thing behind it where you feel like you're saving money even though you're spending more. And yeah, I always sold 2 pairs, and I would sell a lot of earrings, 2 for a fiver, especially at Christmas markets and things. That's 2 Christmas gifts for people. It worked out really well, and it added up quick. And I'm able to make earrings quite quickly. I have lots of beautiful beads and things, and a little system going, so I could churn them out quite easily, and they would sell really, really well. I would probably make the bulk of my sales through my two for £5 earrings. So yeah, do consider that. Do consider doing deals or doing little deals on things. It works. People like it. Having your details easily available is something that is quite important. There may be someone who sees something of yours that they just can't quite get on that day, but in a week's time, after payday or whatever, they will want to come and get that item from you. So them being able to find you after the event is very important. So whether you choose to do business cards, whether you do a QR code, those are really trendy at the moment. The thing about those is they're also environmentally friendly. You don't have to get anything printed. There's nothing to throw away. They can just scan your details, and with a QR code as well, they can get all of your details in one go. They can get your website, your Instagram, your TikTok, your whatever. So having that easily available and in a nice little frame on your desk, easy to see, is very helpful. Because yeah, they may go away and think, I didn't really want that actually, and they can find you again. Or they may see something that they know their friend who wasn't able to make it that day would really love, and they can go home and show them. And there's just opportunities for more sales, basically. So that's quite important. Make sure people can find you after the event. Something else that has been really important to me and my clientele, which I do think will travel across different varieties of markets, is thinking environmentally as well. So having paper bags to gift or wrapping things in tissue paper rather than plastic, I think makes a big difference. I personally, because I choose the more bohemian, hippie types of events, the events themselves ask for that, but I would prefer it anyway. So I often don't wrap things. Something else I will say, unless you are selling food, don't wrap your products in plastic. I saw this market stall and she did beautiful knitted toys. They were absolutely gorgeous. This woman had spent so many hours making these incredible toys for children, but she'd put every single one of them in a polythene bag and tied a bow on the top. And because of where we were, we had lights above us and they were shining off of the bags and you couldn't see the products. Don't forget, people are just glancing, they're walking around. If there's lots of stalls, they're literally scanning the room to see where, or scanning the area to see where they want to go. And if they look over to you and they just see these shining, glaring plastic bags, they're not going to be drawn to you. The other reason, unfortunately, the poor lady didn't sell anything that day. I was opposite her and keeping an eye on her, and she didn't sell anything, which was sacrilege, really. Her stuff was incredible, but no one could touch her products. She had these beautiful knitted toys and no one could pick them up and feel them and get a sense of their personality. I think with toys in particular, people are drawn to, the face. That particular toy has a face that resonates with me and I want to own him, That might be my whimsy coming out, but I think that's true. I think particularly with children, they will navigate to a particular toy, a particular face, a particular style, and they weren't allowed to touch. They weren't allowed to pick them up and see them, and it just sort of says my products are too good for your hands. And I just think that really put people off. I think if people were able to go over and have a look and a little cuddle, and you know, they're toys, that's what they're for. It made her look like she was too precious about her products, and it affected her sales. So allow people to touch. Don't wrap things or put them behind glass or things like that, unless it's food. Obviously people can't touch food, or unless it is something really genuinely very, very precious. I think people want to be able to pick things up. I've never had trouble with anyone breaking anything or anyone doing any damage to the things that I've sold, and I think making out that your products are too precious to be touched actually is very off-putting, unfortunately. So don't do that. Let them be on display. Let people pick them up. Let people try things on, or whatever it is that you're selling. Particularly if it's toys, children want to pick them up and have a look and get a feel for their character and get a feel for whether they resonate with them. They want to take them home and they want them to come and live with them. Yeah, I'm very into Toy Story. I don't know if you can tell, but I feel like toys have personality and they connect with people. And I think if you put them behind a plastic bag, that puts them off. So I'm going to leave this video here. I think I have more ideas, but I'm just talking as I think. So if I think of more ideas, I'll come and do another video on the subject. But for now, and if you have any questions, do leave them below, because I can create another video answering any questions. But yes, market stalls have been incredibly successful for me. I have made a lot of money through doing stalls, and they are hard work. I must put that out there. They are hard work. You have to carry everything everywhere. You need inventory. You need all of that. But they are worth it if done properly and if chosen carefully. So I would highly recommend them. I mean, get your bag, do it. If you feel like it's something that you're interested in, give it a try, and don't give up after your first one. Remember that you will evolve. My very first market was an absolute disaster. I would like to just say that I wasn't successful from day one. I learned a lot through failing, but now I succeed, and I'm happy to share my tips and tricks with you guys. So if you have any questions, let me know. And I really think you should get out there and try, because it feels really good to sell your things to people who are standing right in front of you. This is something you don't get online. You know, I have customers from all around the world, which is wonderful, but I never get to meet them. I don't get to see their lovely, happy faces. So that way I get to actually meet people who are going to buy and wear and use my things, which I really love. I think I may do a video of my best selling items to help you guys know what to make, because I do see a lot of crochet stalls selling the same things, and the problem with that is the customers get a little bit bored with looking at the same things. So my next video may be one where I talk about different types of things you can make that are good sellers. But until then, I'm going to leave this one here, and it's been lovely hanging out with you, and I shall see you again very soon.